Tom Cruise came to see it last night, and I got a text from him saying, like, I was on the edge of my seat. You crushed it. And then he said, I ate so much popcorn.
People on these games never come back.
I'm not trying to get myself killed, so kiss my ass twice.
Right there is why you can win this game.
Always great to see you, Edgar. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
How are you doing? This is a huge movie. When I on the way
like
here,
the therapy session. How are you?
I was just thinking, like, because it's like the Running Man is everywhere. Like, I on the way here, I saw like 4 buses with it. Like, the campaign is huge, and you're at the centre of this massive production. But yeah, I think it's fair to check in with you. Like, this is a big deal.
Well, last night we had the premiere, and a lot of cast and crew were there. You know, including all of our post team. We were all, you know, it felt like we were all just working together a couple of weeks ago, because we were.
Oh, really? Wow.
We started filming proper like November 2024, so a year ago, and we only like finished kind of like the dotting the I's. Dotting the I's? That's right.
Yeah.
It's early in the morning. Crossing the T's. Dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Like 2 weeks ago, you know. I mean, I say that I felt maybe it's dangerous to say that, people, because then it sounds like it's rushed. I should say it's the finished film that we wanted to make, but it was done very close to the wire.
All part of the schedule.
It was actually, you know, it's crazy actually. In early 24, I'd been working with Michael Bacall on the script for a couple of years at that point. There'd been, in 2023, there was the production strike, so obviously, you know, nothing happened that year. And then it was in early 24 that Mike Ireland from Paramount said, hey, he said, why aren't we making The Running Man right now? We could be in production by the end of the year and have it out at the end of 25, which is very rare for somebody at the studio to kind of like fire the starting gun. But he was right, and so here we are.
That's amazing. And it's very, you know, in the spirit of the film. You know, we're moving at a pace.
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, there's lots of things about this production, because amazing cast and crew, and like so fun, and like especially in Glen, just like the nicest, most hardworking leading man you could ask for. But you know, it's a complicated movie with all the action and all of the location work and the extent of location work, that it was kind of like just ambitious and arduous and cold a lot of the time. But I think weirdly it all sort of seems to add to the intensity on screen.
Absolutely. I mean, a nice thing about you know, watching it now is the weather looks very similar to what we see in the film.
Yes.
You know, so it's all very in keeping, very seasonal there. Just I guess going back to, you know, working with Michael Bacall on the script, I'm always fascinated by the process of adaptation. And what is that sort of literal process like? You know, how do you decide, okay, this needs fleshing out, this needs to be developed, this needs to stay exactly how it is? How do you navigate that source material into your own screenplay?
I think the first thing is that, I mean, the reason that I wanted to do the movie is because I had read the book when I was a teenager, and even as a teenager before I was a director, you obviously visualize as you're reading you know, you visualize the movie of the book that you're reading. And I'd done all that as a teenager before I saw the 1987 version, and that film, whilst it's very entertaining, is a completely different thing from the novel. So as a Stephen King fan, and then especially when I became a director, I was always aware that there is like a whole other movie in that book, and so really the adaptation, the start of it, with working with Michael Bacall, was like, what are the things from this book that are really sort of key? That we want to do, and there's so much of it, because there's so much amazing world building in the book, and the tone of it is really interesting, and the satirical elements are really fantastic. But the 2 key elements that we wanted to bring to the screen that weren't in the previous adaptation is like Ben Richards is the center of every scene. So the entire film pivots around him, and you don't cut off to other characters at all. You stay with him. So the experience is more sort of subjective and intense. And also that the gameplay of the game is out in the world. You know, in the 1987 film, it's sort of in a subterranean arena, but in the book, it's kind of, you can go anywhere. And so both Ben and the other contestants can go as far afield as they can without getting caught. So, you know, then the film is a bit more like a road movie in that respect. You know, you're out, in the wilds with Ben. And so that was really key to it. And that also, by making Ben the focus of every scene, it also kind of both limited you in the storytelling in some ways, but is also very freeing in a different way. So that was a big part of it. The other, I guess the third thing would be that Ben Richards is very much an everyman. You know, that he is, you know, an out-of-work dad. He's been blacklisted. He can't provide for his family. His daughter is sick. And he goes to the network building of his own choice to compete on one of their cruel game shows, although he doesn't want to do the Running Man. He's willing to risk injury, not death. So those were the sort of key elements. And then there's so much of the novel that wasn't adapted before, like the characters of Bradley and Elton, and even Kathy and Sheila are not in the 1987 film at all. You know, Killian and Bobby are two separate characters in the 87 when they sort of amalgamated them into one. So it was just like, basically it's like, let's go back to the book and like, you know, and make a film out of this. And mostly like some things are just straight from the novel, some things are expanded, some things we had to adapt. You know, the great thing is that, the great, and I should say nerve-wracking thing, was that Stephen King had to approve of the screenplay.
Oh, wow.
So, two things. So, the good and bad. Like, good. He loves the screenplay. This is major. Like, and, you know, he had issues with the previous one. He loves this adaptation, and he loves what we've kept, and he loves what we changed. And that's great. However, you know, when you're making a film, you're always trying to live up to the movie that's in your head as you're directing. And now I'm also having to live up to the movie that's in his head. So we've kind of added like double the pressure on myself during the shoot.
What's it like? How long did it take Stephen to reply? What were those few days like?
He replied, he's a very prompt responder. And I think maybe only a couple of days, but actually he started doing something at first where he was screen capping bits of the script. And you know, would send back a line that he liked to say, yes, exactly. And I was like, at a certain point, my heart couldn't take it. There was one line that he said, maybe, he said, don't hit him over the head with it. It was like you were being marked by, you know, he was an English teacher, and now we're getting our coursework graded by the world's most famous English teacher. The line that he said was too on the nose is not in the finished film.
Gotta listen to the boss.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it. That was the only negative thing he said, so I was like, okay, I'm listening to that.
We'll get your family out of Slumside for good.
I'm gonna come back here and burn this building down. I promise.
That's the spirit.
This is America, goddammit! And we don't put up with no bullshit! Yes!
When you were writing, when did you start to sort of imagine how things would start to look on screen? I love the TV game show aesthetic you've got, you know, when you even incorporate it into the opening film titles and have it as a consistent thing throughout. But do you start to sort of think, like, how are we going to depict this game show? How is it going to be integrated into the reality of the film?
Yeah, I think, and that stuff all comes in the writing because you're, especially having worked with Michael Bacall before and we made Scott Pilgrim together, it's something where, you know, like we're working together and also he's working with the director. So on a practical level and visual level, that stuff comes up all the time. I mean, I'll say this, I don't want to say this to any of the American journalists because they wouldn't understand what I'd be talking about, but during the process of working with Michael, sometimes if we just, I wouldn't say what I call creative procrastination, not even that research, we watched a full episode of It's a Knockout, 3, 2, 1, and a very, like, I remember this show, and people of a certain age will, after Treasure Hunt, there was this kind of like, very strange show called Interceptor. Do you remember that at all?
I do not know. Oh my God.
But it was sort of like The Running Man, but with no death. And it involved like a hunter who dressed in this long black trench coat, who used to cry like a hawk, that used to kind of fire like sort of like at the contestants. This was a show on Channel 4. I mean, it was on ITV actually, but it's definitely, anyway, I mean, some people out there, most people won't know what I'm talking about, and maybe the odd person that watches goes, yes, the Interceptor, I remember. Anyway, it was that thing of watching game shows. And also not just watching game shows, watching a lot of reality TV stuff, And also, sadly, and this is, a lot of reality TV show scandal. So much that we know about these shows and how the sort of the sausage is made and what kind of like sort of darker things kind of happen on those shows. And it is something I think in the last 25 years, that it's, Stephen King wrote the book in the 70s, it wasn't published in the 80s, but a very accurate prediction of where media was going. And I think it's the thing with reality TV is that it is members of the public that are on these shows. And they may not be equipped in the same way that actors are to deal with fame. And so many of these shows create a narrative for somebody, whether they're like a laughing stock. Like, how many times have you watched like the bad auditions of wait till you see how terrible this person is? It's like, well, they've been set up for a fall by the sort of production team. And they might not be equipped to be like a national laughingstock. And then other people are made to be the villain. They get the villain edit, and now they're sort of like the nation's most hated person. And it's a lot of it is not okay.
No,
not
at all.
And so this kind of like, I guess writing the script, having had 25 years of that kind of reality TV show from all over the world, was very kind of influential to us.
You do, and the film really does explore that through the action, how Ben's position in society changes, and what people expect of him because he's now on TV, and and he's just thinking about his family and his life, and he's sort of grounding it. But you also get to play with the visual medium in this, and I love how Ben also sees how the other contestants are doing through the TV broadcasts, and you're using a different style of filmmaking then because you're making it look like a TV show. Was that quite fun to sort of just play with the visual language, how you're telling the story?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of wild making the movie because we'd be doing different stuff all the time. So you might because there were so many short scenes, we'd be shooting so much different stuff. So it's like, okay, this is like a movie shot, like this is, then we're doing Glen on the treadmill, and then we're around the corner shooting like one of the contestants kind of being beset upon by hunters. But there's a scene with Martin Herlihy where he's in like a deli chatting up the cashier, and because it's supposed to be CCTV, we literally just set up 4 CCTVs and just let him go. Oh, wow. It's like 4 hidden cameras and like sort of, here's the scenario, go for it. So then it's like so in the same day that you're making like a big movie with all the crew, and then there's this other scene which is really funny, and the finished thing is like, we basically set up the cameras and like hid around the corner of the shelves in the shop and just let them do it,
I love where Katie's in the casino, and there's an action scene, and it's this like really seamless, fluid shot, but on a handheld camera. Just it's nice to sort of have that different visual language.
Oh, thank you.
Makes for a really cool action scene as well.
Oh, thank you.
You've got an amazing cast. We've mentioned a few people in this. I did wonder, it's really lovely as a fan of your work to see Michael Cera back in the movie.
Yeah.
Was he someone you had in mind when you were writing, or?
I would say not initially. Like the character was written and in the drafts. He's straight from the book, Elton. Like but then I guess it was we were working on the script first. And then, as it started to become a reality, you start to think about casting. And as soon as Michael's name had been said out loud, me and Michael McCall were like, yes, yes, okay, great, that would be amazing. And it was so nice after 15 years. We obviously still close friends. I think we'd spent 15 years, being friends, but mostly like texting back like nonsense to each other. Just have this ongoing text thread of silliness. And then eventually I said, just to talk shop for a second, I have something to talk to you about work-wise. And he goes, ooh, and he replied, ooh, exciting. And then it was like, he read the script and said, yeah, this would be great. And so it was actually great to reunite with him.
He's fantastic in the film, and perfect casting for that character. I love when he pulls out the water pistol. It's like, of course, he'll be playing with a super soaker, and he's such a good visual contrast to Glen Powell. When they're in that scene. Also, I just like, I felt so kind of warm and happy seeing Glen and Michael get on like a house on fire. Spoiler alert. But also. Just them as a sort of little kind of their sort of comedy dynamic is really fun. I mean, that's the true of the whole film in terms of what's great with
with Glenn is because it is a road movie. You're sort of like coming in and out. Characters are coming into, Ben's life and going out of theirs.
Yeah, he's so good at, because he's often, it's just him and the other person, and then he will leave, and we'll see what happens to the other person. But yeah, he's such a good sort of pair of eyes to follow through this, and I just, nothing phases him, even though it's so terrifying, the situation he's in, and he's so he's so charming, of course, and good at the action. But yeah, I feel like we're seeing a Glen Powell in this film we haven't seen before. It feels very rounded.
Oh no, I can't say enough great things about Glenn's performance, and it's no mean feat to sort of be the center of every scene, and also to sort of have an arc and sort of like, and I always like the bits in the movie where he kind of gets into what I call his kind of fuck it energy, where it's kind of like sort of like this is the worst thing that's ever happened. I may as well lean into the person that they think I am, And there's a particular scene when he picks up the loud hailer, where he sort of starts playing up to the person that's on TV, and I really like that because he's thinking, okay, like I'll just be the guy you think I am.
When he has to film his pieces to camera and mail them in, like it's really nice for not many films allow a character sort of to speak directly to the camera like that. And I think that's great to take the audience on this journey and really get inside his brain. But yeah, when he sort of breaks and he's like, okay, I'm in it, and he's just sort of screaming down the camera. Yeah, it's a great moment.
We had fun. I mean, there's actually on the eventual Blu-ray there'll be like sort of a ton of other tapes because like there's a few more things that Glenn did, but then. Other people in the cast, Martin Herlihy and Bill O'Neill playing like Tim and Hopeless Dude, I literally gave them the camera and said, go off and record stuff on your own, which they did, and they're amazing.
I love how you rounded the cast out with Katie O'Brien is amazing, and we loved her in Love Lies Bleeding a couple of years ago. Was that the film that put her on your radar?
Oh yeah, I literally went to the premiere of Love Lies Bleeding in Los Angeles because my friend of Rose's. Saw that movie, came back into, to work with Michael the next day and said, she should play Loughlin. Katie O'Brien should play Loughlin. It was as simple as that. And then I called my casting director and said, have you seen Love Lies Bleeding? The actress Katie O'Brien should play Loughlin. So, job done.
Oh, that's amazing. Just to put a Picture House hat on, we did a 5th anniversary screening of St. Maud last night.
Oh, yeah.
And Rose and the whole cast.
Oh, no way.
And everyone came down. And then we were talking a bit about Love Lies Bleeding, and Katie O'Brien got such a lovely shout out and such a warm response to the room, just people cheering. Like, she's got a fan base.
She's such a rock star as well. I think also what's funny is that sort of like, I feel like, I don't want to say that I feel like sort of her and Loughlin are quite similar in a way. She's definitely got that kind of like real rock star energy. One of my favourite little things happening in the background, and I hopefully it's a film that stands up to repeated viewing, is when Ben first goes onto the Running Man set, and in the background you can see Martin Herlihy sort of waving to get Ben's attention and being escorted off by the goons. And Katie O'Brien, meanwhile, is introducing herself to every single one of the cheerleaders. Going, hey, I'm Jenny. Hey, I'm Jenny. Hey, I'm Jenny. So look for that in the background. It always makes me laugh.
Oh, that's fab. I love how the costume says so much about the characters in the film. You've got some, it looks amazing on screen. The Running Man sort of suit in the studio is fab, but once they sort of get out into the real world, and Katie immediately goes to the all white, a cowboy hat.
It's in her kind of nudie suit phase.
But I also love Glen Powell's costumes. Like, that's such a neat sort of idea, giving him that sort of suitcase of costumes.
Yeah.
How did you sort of play with that when you were writing?
Well, you sort of had to think about it on a practical level, and that's something working with Julian Day, the costume designer, is that, he can't be, even if he's got disguises, they've still got to be stuff that you could do out of a suitcase. So if he's got a wig, it's not going to be like what the makeup and hair department can do. It could be what Ben Richards could do in a hotel room. And so then the sort of the three kind of changes that he has, they sort of quickly start kind of, mixing and matching because he's had to run and dump stuff. So by the end, he's got his kind of OG costume on and part of the priest costume,
The sort of detention you get from the moustache sort of drawing up on the train.
The moustache does not last long at all.
I loved the score. and it was great to hear it in a cinema. I sat in the front row when I watched it because I just wanted to sort of experience
Yeah.
the whole thing. Stephen Price does such great work. I was
Yeah.
wondering, what did you talk about with him when you were planning this movie?
Well, this is probably the second time he's done this. The first time being Last Night in Soho. This is the fourth time I worked with him, but he wrote cues based on the script, which is a thing that like Ennio Morricone used to do, working with Sergio Leone. Is sort of the score of Good, the Bad, and the Ugly existed before the movie, which is insane. In this case, it's like Steve writes the script and says, "Oh, let me see," you know. He just wrote some cues, themes, many of which are in the finished movie. So there were times when we were able to play those things in on set.
Oh, wow.
We had some cues. And then on top of that, the other thing that Steve has to do, and he said he was disturbed by how much he enjoyed doing this, is he had to do all the reality TV show music. So all of the music for The Running Man and Speed the Wheel and, you know, the incidental music on the Americanos, all of that stuff, the adverts, you had to do all that as well. So it's kind of like there's a whole score and then there's the TV shows too.
Oh, what a fun job for someone to do.
I mean,
especially just to cut to something on the TV shows.
It was that thing where we had to kind of like, there was one thing when we were doing the kind of mix, there was one part of a cue and I said, I love this, but that bit does sound really close to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. We had to change that.
I love how you shoot so much of this on location, and then, you know, through the magic of cinema, we get these amazing sort of dystopian future skylines. But how did you go about scouting your locations, and, you know, where we're gonna? And I had so much fun spotting places I recognised.
It was the first thing that we did, really. It's the first thing that you do in production is you just got to get on the ground, and myself and Marcus Rowland, the production designer, and Eugene Strange, the location manager, went round the cities, first London, and then we were looking at cities in the north and in Scotland, and then Glasgow, we sort of like, you know, gave it so much diverse architecture. So it was basically like London, Glasgow, and then also we went to Sofia in Bulgaria, which gave us all of the freeways and the country roads and stuff that more difficult to do in the UK. So all of the freeway stuff was done in Bulgaria because there's like sort of miles and miles of freeways that are not in use. So it's like, okay, great, this is our playground.
Oh, that's cool. We had such a good time watching this film, and we're looking forward to playing it at Picture House on the big screen.
Yes.
Do you remember, you know, obviously it sounds like an amazing production, lots going on, but when it all came together for you and you sort of sat with the final grades, the final sound mix, and just sort of saw it all come together, how did you feel seeing this project realised?
You know, I'm very proud of it, and you just have to sit back and, you know, just appreciate everything that everybody's done, because to make a movie like this is like, obviously you as a director work really hard, but obviously everybody else works really hard as well. We had a little moment like that at the premiere because I saw, you know, it's not just the shoot itself, it's also the post-production, which is, and again, not complaining because these are high-class films to have, and making movies is the best job in the world, but it is also like a year of 6 and 7 day weeks and 16-hour days, and, you know, people have to make sort of sacrifices and stuff. So I can only, all I can say is I just feel really proud of all of the work that everybody put into it.
Oh, fab. I think customers are going to have such a good time watching this. When I was at my screening, people were laughing, you know, people were tense. It was so good to talk to people who just saw it afterwards. And yeah, we can't wait to get this on the big screen at Picture House.
Tom Cruise came to see it last night, and I got a text from him saying, like, I was on the edge of my seat. You crushed it. And then he said, I ate so much popcorn. I just love that fact. I said I said that's the pull quote. I ate so much popcorn.
I mean, allow it. Let's put it on. That's great.
I got a grenade! Back at you.
I'm still here, you shit eaters.